Parent-Teacher Hotline, sponsored by Burgerville and KOIN-6 News.
Good morning, I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. If the debate about who is winning the war in Yugoslavia is unclear, there's no debate about who is losing. They are the huddled masses of refugees, whose misery the world has been watching for almost 3 weeks now. They are still miles from home, and their plight will be our cover story, to be reported by Mark Phillips.
For the Kosovo refugees, places like this are but a way station on their trail of tears. This is a refugee camp on the outskirts of Tirana, and by camp standards, this place is the Ritz. There's shelter here, and there's food. But if anything, the refugee problem here is getting worse. Later on Sunday morning, we'll see how those trying to help are facing a new challenge, how they have to find the desperates before they can feed them.
We'll journey to Bard College in upstate New York for a chat with and to listen to that college's president, who also happens to be the conductor of the American Symphony Orchestra. His ideas about music today and education today are the stuff of Mr. Botstein's Opus. Junior's turn refers to William Clay Ford, Jr., Ford as in the Ford Motor Company, the latest of Henry Ford's descendants to run that company, who, as Ray Brady will tell us, is once again making Detroit the world's auto capital.
That's something fun.
Well, that's
At the youthful age of 41, William Clay Ford Jr. is out to change the auto world. And why not? Sitting at the top of the Ford Motor Company, he's the great-grandson of Henry Ford, who started it all with the Model T.
To me, the interesting thing is really not the sitting at my desk and going over paperwork. As a matter of fact, that's the part I probably dislike the most.
Later on Sunday morning, we'll tell you how this fourth-generation Ford wants to move Ford Motor into the next century.
John Leonard will be along with reviews of 2 new made-for-TV movies. Allison Stewart will profile 81-year-old blues legend John Lee Hooker. And we will share with you Roger Welch's latest postcard from Nebraska. But first, here are the top stories for this Sunday, the 11th of April. For Orthodox Christians, this is Easter Sunday, their holiest day. But for ethnic Albanians forced out of Kosovo, some are Christian, but most are Muslim. In any case, it is difficult for them to focus on religion while trying to get on with life in a refugee camp. Correspondent Jim Axelrod joins us now from a camp near the Macedonia-Kosovo border. Jim? Jim Axelrod is out of touch at the moment. We're going out to the Pentagon, where David Martin has the latest. David?
One village in Kosovo.
Yeah, David Martin is there at the Pentagon, as you see, but having some communications problems here this morning. Let's go. David is in touch now. Let's go back to him. David?
Sorry, Charles.
Okay, go ahead.
There were some breaks in the weather last night, and better than half the planes managed to get through to their targets. They hit the usual list of targets, fuel dumps, ammo supply, anti-aircraft, command and control, and some troops in the field. But perhaps the most significant development was that pilots reported that the anti-aircraft fire was the heaviest yet. So if you're looking for signs the Serb military is about to fold, there aren't any out there. Today in Albania, weather permitting, the Air Force hopes to finish converting the Tirana airfield into a round-the-clock operation, which will vastly increase the amount of equipment that can be brought in there, including those Apache anti-tank helicopters. But finally, Charles, the evidence of what's happening in Kosovo becomes grimmer and grimmer. There is now a reconnaissance photo which shows nearly 100 freshly dug graves outside one village in Kosovo.
David Martin, thank you. We're going to get back to you again later on this Sunday morning. Turning now to weather, this is going to be a sunny but cool Sunday in New England, and you'll need to take along an umbrella from Ohio to the mid-Atlantic states. It'll be hot and dry across Florida, and just the opposite, cold and wet in parts of the upper Midwest, where we expect a spring snowfall. This will be a delightful day from the plains to the Rockies, but cloudy in the northwest. Much of California and Nevada will have rain with some snow in the mountains. In sports, at the Masters, Jose Maria Olazabal of Spain is at 7 under par for the tournament, which gives him a one-stroke lead going into today's final round. Olazabal had only one birdie yesterday. On the 9th hole, his second shot was 123 yards from the pin, and the ball measured the 123 yards with such precision that it hit the pin.
Rattles the flagstick at the 9th.
Right behind Olazabal at 6 under par is Greg Norman, whose tee shot on the par 3 12th hole got lost in the bushes.
Oh, no.
They couldn't find it. So Norman had to tee off again, hit the green, and was lying 3 with a long putt for a bogey.
Oh, can you believe it?
And he made it. So he's breathing down Olazabal's neck, and a dozen players are breathing down his as the final round of the Masters gets underway at 4 this afternoon Eastern Time here on CBS. In the run-up to the Kentucky Derby, Adonis won the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. A 30-to-1 long shot, Valhall won the Arkansas Derby. A $2 bet on Valhall paid $62.80. And the Bluegrass Stakes at Lexington was some horse race in the final furlong, with Cat Thief, Menifee, and Vickers, stride for stride, coming down the stretch.
Here comes Wondercross. Here comes at the rail, Vicker, Menifee on the outside.
But Menifee breaks ahead and wins the Bluegrass by a length and a half. Menifee is a local horse named for a county in Kentucky. Now he'll be a top entry in the Kentucky Derby. Next on Sunday morning, the bleak view of the Kosovo refugees.
In Portland, a widow gets water from a faucet instead of a hole in the roof. Near Salem, a couple won't have to trade in their home when they retire. And in Vancouver, sunlight enters a home through windows instead of a plastic sheet. Last year, we repaired over 4,000 homes across America for those who couldn't do it themselves. We're Christmas in April. We do more than rebuild homes. We rebuild lives. Help us help others in our area.
You're wearing used clothes right now. You got a closet full of used clothes. You wear it once, it's used. Buy at Value Village, you get a little extra money in your pocket, which I figure you can use.
And save even more money at Value Village's big 45th anniversary celebration this Saturday, April 17th. Save 50% throughout the store. Plus, enter for a chance to win a Volkswagen New Beetle, courtesy of DealerNet.com. Catch the savings bug this Saturday at Value Village.
A store full of great things that have been previously owned at no extra charge.
RV buyers, the Northwest's largest RV liquidation has always been at Clark County Fairgrounds. Come join over 1,500 satisfied buyers who have saved tons of money on new and used motorhomes, trailers, and bank repos. Because of the low overhead at Clark County Fairgrounds, these low prices cannot be matched by any imitators. 5-star repair service is available year-round, and you'll get the lowest prices and best selection on new and used diesels, Class A's, minis, fifth wheels, and trailers. It all ends Sunday, April 18th at Clark County Fairgrounds. See you there.
What would you call a flooring system that's made from beautiful, solid Tasmanian oak or spotted gum, milled with extraordinary precision, that comes in a range of natural timber colors, pre-finished with 3 coats of tough polyurethane, that can be laid over a slab or timber underlay, and that fits together without a hitch, without a nail to be seen? Till Coat Flooring. We call it the top floor, because it is.
They are still miles from home. Hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children who become the nomads of this war between NATO and Yugoslavia. Already the bickering has started over who miscalculated, who was ill-prepared, who was using whom in the propaganda war. It matters little to the refugees, many of whom seem to have disappeared. For those who got out of Kosovo, and for those 700,000 or so still at the mercy of the Serbs and facing a new enemy, famine, it is nothing short of catastrophe. Our cover story now from Mark Phillips.
Whether intended or accidental, a requiem concert by the Albanian Symphony provided a fitting lament for the forced expulsion of a people. Tirana's opera house was sparsely attended. There's not much time for concert going here. Sometimes a tragedy affecting hundreds of thousands can be reduced to one image. A mother being comforted by her young son. Who knows where the father is? They don't. They were just part of the wretched throng that had fallen exhausted into Kukës, the dusty provincial town, high up in the northern border country where Albania meets Kosovo, where the peaks reach as high as the human condition is low. This is a story so big, affecting so many, that even those who are part of it have difficulty in the telling.
Many things are happening there. I don't know where to start.
Start the night the police came.
Yes, that night we came from our houses because they burned around us some houses and killed some people.
Bekrija Pruthi had had a comfortable life in the town she calls Jakova and the Serbs call Jakovica, not far from the Albanian border. 3 children, Besart 15, Betim 12, and Brakina 6. Husband Bakir had run a household appliance store until the night the Serbs came, and not alone. Who was it who came to Jakova was killing people and telling you to leave?
Many policemen and soldiers, but almost where they are civilians. They who know us, know where is my house, what I am, everything. Because from Serbia he don't know who I am and what I do.
So it was people from your town?
Yes.
Who came to find you with the Serb police and army?
Yes.
The same story repeated with hundreds of thousands of variations. Families in cars, families in tractors, misery by the cartload, making their way into Albania, perhaps the one place on the planet least able to care for them. And so the world has pitched in, but frankly, in some places, it's still chaos. In the border area, refugees crowd around a truck delivering what they call humanitarian daily rations, salvation in a little yellow bag. Most brought in by the World Food Program, which Trevor Rowe says had stockpiled them for the worst-case scenario they hoped wouldn't happen.
If you're real hungry, you can use your teeth, I guess, or you can just pull them open like this.
Or you can use this, right. So, of course, if you're starving and weak, it's a problem to get at this thing. So there we go. All right. So show me what's in this.
Well, this is vegetable ragu. And you have here the stew, so you just open this and eat it.
The refugees who have settled in Albanian camps are traumatized and hungry, but in relatively good health. For the tens of thousands still traveling the roads, though, the problem is to get the rations and the food in the same place.
We have terrible roads, mountain passes. We have people with no money who are showing up and no infrastructure to deliver the food.
So American and other military helicopter crews find themselves flying missions unlike any they've trained for, loading emergency rations and flying them up into the mountain country to where the refugees have gathered. It takes 10 hours for a truck to make this run. A helicopter can do it in half an hour.
The biggest problem is that right now there's a lot more enthusiasm than there is organization.
Major Bob Capriocci and his crew can only grab a quick snack themselves between flights. This is not flying by the book.
There's no air traffic control up in the northern part of the country. There's no weather forecasting, so the weather is kind of marginal, and it can surprise you if you're not careful.
And the problems don't end when you land.
There's a lot of chaos, mostly little children. I mean, they're great. You know, we love the kids and all that, and that's what we're here for. But try to keep them orderly, try to keep them safe away from the aircraft where they won't get hurt is our most important concern.
Little by little, the long-term feeding effort is taking shape. American flour turned into Albanian loaves by the tens of thousands, loaded onto army trucks and taken to the camps. Their distribution becomes part of the morning routine. Collect your bread, listen to the latest news on the radio, almost all of it bad. The refugees and the aid workers like Trevor Rowe are settling in for the long term.
The Albanian government told us that they only have capacity for 35,000 covered shelters, and they weren't even ready, but that's what they've got the capacity for. So it's a real problem in terms of where these people are going to go. I mean,
when you have 10 times that many.
Yeah, and is this the new Gaza Strip?
Right. Well, it looks that way, I must say. And it looks that way to many of the refugees as well, almost all of whom say they want to go home, but can only think of one way that can happen. How do you think you will get home?
I appreciate all the people, all our American people, friends who help us. I appreciate them very much, because alone is very difficult.
Do you think you'll need the help of the Americans and the French and all the others to go back?
Of course.
Military help. And when they do return, Bekria Pruthi says it'll be to a different Kosovo. Can you ever live together again with the Serbs?
No. It's possible to live together.
Not possible.
No. That day we left Jakova, they smiled to us. They smiled to us to go around with cars, writing in doors of cars, Serbia. This is Serbia.
So you don't think you can live with that anymore? Populations have shifted throughout the breakup of Yugoslavia. The Kosovars are just the latest. And their fate is as uncertain as all the others. The daughter who managed to bring only one possession, her favorite doll, with her as she fled, probably doesn't know that of the millions who have been displaced, almost none have ever gone home.
The Healing Power of the Blues with John Lee Hooker, next on Sunday Morning.
Okay, you need to send a birthday bouquet cross-country to your Aunt Bonnie. You'll never see those flowers, but she will. So, who are you going to trust?
FTD, the world's gold standard for flower quality, artistry, and dependability. Nobody else even comes close. Ask for FTD by name.
So even if you don't see the flowers,
you'll know just what they're going to look like. Order online at FTD.com.
Overprotective of your food containers?
How long will this loan be for?
About a day.
References?
What's that?
Congratulations. You've been approved.
Switch to new Gladware. At about 50 cents each, you'll get food containers you can use and still afford to lose.
Thanks, Mom.
Did somebody say McDonald's?
My grandson's a cute kid, but one tough businessman. Hey, buddy, I must have fixed my car.
Upfront pricing. What do you think this is, mister? That GM Goodrich Service Plus?
What a kid. Got upfront pricing, plus lifetime guarantee on parts and labor, plus courtesy transportation. GM Goodrich Service Plus. The little guy was right.
The plus means better.
Call for the select GM dealer near you.
Will you ever own a personal satellite? Will you ever say, fill her up with hydrogen? Are microfibers just a trend? One thing's for sure, opportunities abound. And every day we look at them through a microscope. Like a peek, let's get to work. The Solomon Smith Barney.
He started in the Mississippi Delta, one of the cradles of American blues. And he has somehow managed to build his audience throughout most of his 81 years. John Lee Hooker lives in the pantheon of the genre, along with Muddy Waters and Mississippi Fred McDowell, Sonny Terry, and Brownie McGee. And as Allison Stewart tells us, Hooker just now seems to be getting his second wind.
black glasses, sharp suit, and trademark fedora, he is an icon. From the first chord to the last foot stomp, that boogie is unmistakably John Lee Hooker. At 81 years old, Hooker still plays the music that is down-home Delta blues.
Every time I see a woman play, I'm thinking my woman. She did me so bad.
What goes into writing a good blues song?
All I can tell you, blues of feeling is about people. You can't sing about cavalry, you can't sing about animals. You sing about human beings, love, hate, broken-hearted, and do the thing that he can pick you up, and he can let you down. Like Blue the Healer,
The Healer, one of the best-selling blues albums of all time, marked Hooker's return to popularity in the 90s. It features a slinky remake of I'm in the Mood, a duet with his friend, an ardent fan, Bonnie Raitt, who remembers the first time she heard a John Lee Hooker record at age 16.
He was singing neck deep in mud, you know. Blues is, in general, is pretty in touch with some of the deeper stuff, you know. There's like real erotic, real scary, really midnight, kind of lonely, forlorn, all those feelings of dark night of the soul.
Raitt was on hand to help celebrate Hooker's 50th year of recording when he was recently honored with the Rhythm and Blues Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award.
The blues doesn't get any more taproot than John Lee, and the thing about him is the reason we are giving him this award is his whole life has been a study in how not to lose the edge of what made him a Mississippi Delta blues man to the core. This is the reason our parents did not want us to listen to the blues.
It's been a life worthy of a blues song. He was born in 1917 and raised on the Mississippi Delta in the small town of Clarksdale. As a child, Hooker learned to play guitar from his stepfather, a musician and farmer. But by his adolescence, Hooker hit the road in search of the big city.
Every time I see you, baby, walking down the street.
Why'd you leave home?
I didn't want the farm. I didn't want the field. I didn't like, you know, cotton and stuff like that. And I heard about all these things up north, you know, there was record companies and nightclubs and music, and I remember I made a break for it.
The only thing John Lee Hooker planned to pick was a guitar. He first ran off to Memphis, then Cincinnati, and finally settled in Detroit, where he recorded his first hit in 1948, called Boogie Chillin'.
Yeah, my mama, she didn't love me. Yeah, to stay out all night long. Oh, Lord.
It sold 1 million copies, which was quite an achievement for what was then called a race record in the United States. While in England, he was revered by young guitarists like Eric Clapton, who learned the blues from him.
It's like John says, blues is not about being miserable. It's a happy music. It's about expression. It's about sharing. And that's what's kept me alive through most of my life. I think he deserves this Lifetime Achievement Award just for the fact that he never changed key.
Hooker's career was not a string of award shows and accolades. Like many rhythm and blues pioneers, he earned little money from his early work and experienced financial troubles. By the mid-70s, he was frustrated and burned out by the music business. He stopped recording for years.
I wasn't getting paid. I made all these good records with these record companies, and they wouldn't pay me right, which I don't like to say, but it's true. You don't have it now, though.
It doesn't happen anymore because Hooker has a bunch of lawyers and a trusted manager and agent, Mike Kappas.
It's a shame that in the 50s and 60s there weren't more lawyers involved on behalf of artists, because in that era, 40s, 50s, 60s, and probably all the way back to the beginning of recording time, especially for black artists, they were taken advantage of horribly.
It was Kappas who convinced Hooker to record again in the 80s, this time with younger guitar greats like Carlos Santana and Robert Cray, who repeatedly asked to work with their idol. The best of these pairings can be found on Hooker's golden anniversary release, The Best of Friends.
He's completely unique now in that he's a link to the origins of Delta Blues, and he's also very contemporary right now.
These collaborations earned him his first Grammy Award at the age of 72. John Lee Hooker won 4 Grammys, but he lost 2 in a fire here in his home just last July. It was a sad note in a year otherwise full of celebration. But being the blues man he is, John Lee Hooker didn't let a fire keep him down. The house is being rebuilt. Guitars that were lost are being replaced. And when he plays, he still sells out shows.
I want you to, now baby, put on some boxing gloves. Will you dance, baby, will you dance? Some fool might want to fight you. Now baby.
What do you want the next generation of musicians and music lovers to know about the blues?
I want them to know that the blues will be here forever, and it will. I want them to kind of keep the blues alive, and I think they will. They'll never die.
John Lee Hooker helps the learning curve with visits to local schools.
Early morning time, blues all around my bed.
There wouldn't be any music from this century if it wasn't for the blues. I mean, the roots of jazz, which are the roots of all popular music, and swing and rock and roll and soul music, and everything that I love about being alive at this period, I can be traced back to Johnny Hooker.
With my heart, in San Francisco. With my heart.
Today, John Lee Hooker lives a comfortable life in Northern California, but he remembers the hard times. That's why the night he was honored, he gave back to the Rhythm and Blues Foundation $20,000 of his award to help other musicians who might not have the kind of lawyers he has now.
Do you ever think about retiring?
Yeah, real soon.
You're going to retire soon?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. You think I'm kidding, but I really am.
Why do I think I've heard you say that before?
I know you. I love it. I never completely retire. You never retire from the blues.
And since John Lee Hooker is the blues, he may never retire.
New movies starring Harry Belafonte, Ruby Dee, and Amy Madigan. John Leonard will have reviews next on Sunday Morning.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the Internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Try to remember now. Where to look for a ginkgo biloba to help aid memory. Nature's Resource knows you should look for one with terpenes and flavone glycosides for memory help. And unlike some, Nature's Resource guarantees the potency and purity you need. Make your herbal resource Nature's Resource. Follow the knowledge.
The biggest advantage of going with this relationship of an investment advisor is saving time. We're just at a point in our life where this work takes time.
We have things that we want to be doing other than studying different stocks. We like to travel.
Do volunteer work.
We have a grandchild now.
We feel that his objective and our objective are the same. We appreciate having him in our life.
He knows what our retirement objectives are. He knows what we need financially, and it's nice to put it in his hands.
I'm Steve Kirby. These are my mountains. I test emissions for Ford Motor Company. We're up here in the Rockies testing Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury sport utility vehicles. We're really concerned about the environment. Every SUV we sell this year is going to be low emissions. These vehicles average 35% less smog-forming emissions than the government requires. 35%. That's really amazing. The government doesn't make us do this. We're doing this for my mountains. Better ideas driven by you.
We talked cars and culture with the newest in a line of Fords later on Sunday morning.
At Augusta National, Greg Norman fought back from near disaster and once again has a shot at his first green jacket. Steve Pate, Lee Jansen, Davis Love III, and Ernie Els are also in hot pursuit of leader Jose Maria Olazabal. The final round of the Masters, today on CBS.
Thanks for making CBS America's most watched network. Welcome home.
Friends, if you're in the market for an RV, now is the time, and McMinnville is the place. Valley RV Center has teamed up with Fleetwood RV for a factory-authorized sale on all of America's most popular models. Bounder, Bounder Diesel, Tioga, Pace Arrow, Southwind, Blair, Storm, Vision, Prowler, Wilderness, Avion, Westport, Savannah. Oregon's top Fleetwood dealer makes it easy. Valley RV Center. Low prices are just the beginning.
This is James DePriest inviting you to join the musicians of the Oregon Symphony and me for the 1998-99 Celebrity Season of Stars. Don't miss the power and the glory of live symphonic music, performed at the beautiful Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall. Reserve your seats today.
Tickets on sale now for Brahms Symphony No. 4. Call 790-ART.
Right now, your Lincoln Mercury dealer's got the ultimate ride at the Adventure Center. Whether you're talking 2 wheels or 4, buy or lease a rugged 1999 Mercury Mountaineer, and you'll get a Fuji bicycle and Yakima bike rack. Mountaineer, the premium SUV, gives you a choice of V6 or V8 power, available all-wheel drive, and available leather seating surfaces. And for a limited time, you'll get 0.9% APR financing that can save you over $3,500. Catch the ultimate ride in the Adventure Center at your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Parent-Teacher Hotline, sponsored by Burgerville and KOIN-6 News. It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
And joining us now is John Leonard. Good morning.
Good morning, Charles. The plan was to tell you this morning about Salman Rushdie's new novel, and to talk next Sunday about 2 new network television movies that actually deserve watching. Unfortunately, Rushdie won't make it to the bookstores until Tuesday or Wednesday. And a review of a book that isn't there tastes like aspirin. But 2 new superior network television movies on the same weekend is even more unusual than a terrific novel. So while we're waiting for Rushdie, let's fast forward.
What? How do you do? I'm Amy Hill Harth from the New York Times.
How do you do? I'm Dr. Delaney.
Sadie Delaney?
That's my sister.
Having Our Say, the Delaney sisters' first 100 years, a week from tonight on CBS, is just as bracing and delightful on the small screen as it was on the Broadway stage. With Diane Carroll as Sadie, a retired school teacher. Ruby Dee as Bessie, a retired dentist. And Amy Madigan as the reporter who finally finds them.
My sister was a dentist, and I was a high school teacher. So we're not rich, but we get by. Our papa taught us that for every $1 you earn, the first 10 cents is for the Lord, and the second 10 cents goes into the bank for hard times.
Still finishing each other's sentences a century after they were born. Sadie's the nice one. Bessie has opinions.
I know it's not fashionable to use these words from our heyday. But who's going to stop me? Nobody, that's who. I'm 101 years old, honey. And at my age, I say what I want.
Neither's ever settled for what the white world grudged them, nor for a black man who wanted them to stay home with his children. In flashbacks, we revisit their North Carolina childhood, with Lynette McKee as their mother and Richard Roundtree as Booker T. Washington.
the Jim Crow lynch mob south.
Excuse me, Reverend Delaney, but you all will have to move to the back of the trolley starting today.
And the civil rights movement.
Now, Mr. Mallory. As of this morning, Reverend. Sorry, no exceptions.
Little baby, should you go to bed?
Let's go, girls.
But we want to ring the bell like we always do. The most fun.
Not today.
Well, Papa.
Let's go. Come on. Come on.
Having our say next Sunday is a triumph of oral history, rich character, and abiding spirit. Swing Vote, a week from Monday on ABC, is more of a rabbit punch, but also gutsy. While television is faced up to almost every other important social issue, from domestic violence and racism to homelessness and homophobia, it's been running away from abortion for more than a decade.
You didn't have time to get you your own robe. So I called Harlan at the hospital.
In the near future America of Swing Vote, trial lawyer Andy Garcia is appointed to a Supreme Court that includes Harry Belafonte, Kate Nelligan, James Whitmore, and Robert Prowski. A court that's already jettisoned Roe v. Wade, leaving every state in the pluribus union to write its own abortion law. He's just in time to agonize over an Alabama murder conviction and death sentence for Lisa Gay Hamilton.
Wear this robe.
If the court is stacked against abortion,
Any restriction on how or when a woman chooses is a restriction on her freedom.
So is Margaret Collin, as Garcia's wife.
You want to promote abortion in this country. You want to have those babies on your conscience. Well, you go straight ahead. Just take it on back to work and don't do it here.
And so is the movie.
Thank you very much.
Michael O'Keefe delivers its most passionate aria without ever mentioning the firebombing of abortion clinics and the murder of doctors and nurses. All this is to set us up for Garcia's compromise decision, which is also a policy statement, speaking for once in behalf of all those children who were born unwanted and unloved.
Each state must accept responsibility to so protect these children. It must, and believe me, from this day forward, it will. We are placing the suffering of unwanted children on the agenda of this court today, right up front where it belongs.
There are 500,000 American children in institutions in foster care, of whom only 32,000 will be adopted. Before Roe v. Wade, 2,000 American women died every year from illegal abortions. In 1985, 3 did. Swing Vote will make everybody mad. But we live in a world where children themselves are having children, for whom moralizing ideologues haven't time, money, or affection. We scientize, parsing trimesters. We theologize, counting souls like crazy gogols. And then we stand around at pep rallies waiting for a deliverance by technology, like the French pill, or a message from Andy Garcia, the latest in a long line of very important men who always know best.
Some new ideas about music and learning, next on Sunday Morning.
Why did you drag me out here?
$4 a square foot is why I dragged you out here.
Sure, it's $4 a square foot. We're in the middle of nowhere.
We're not in the middle of nowhere. How'd you get here?
Airport.
Yeah, airport, highway, telephone.
Internet.
Internet.
Genius.
Before Hal came to Lenscrafters, he never owned a pair of prescription sunglasses.
Figured I could buy with squinting.
I searched until I found a pair that really suited his face.
These are great.
And I know he loved our prices.
Ask for prescription sunglasses ready in about an hour at Lenscrafters.
Did somebody say McDonald's?
What if you could find the exact car you want, in the color you want, at a dealer near you, just by moving a mouse?
Silver's nice.
No, red.
Gold?
black. Well, now you can.
It's our new website.
Introducing GMBuyPower.com.
At Invesco, we know that before we invest your money with a company, we look deep into that company. We know with whom they do business, where they do business, and what kind of business they do. And we even learn a thing or two about who they really are. Invesco, a family of no-load funds. Over 65 years of experience, a global perspective. You should know what Invesco knows.
You're looking at a shoplifter, but why is it so easy for this kid to steal all those cigarettes?
We were experiencing some pretty severe cigarette losses in that store.
But theft is only part of the story. Are the tobacco companies and the stores making it easy for them on purpose? Eye on America, Monday on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Mr. Botstein's Opus is really a work in progress. An unfinished symphony of sorts, which springs from the mind and heart of a Renaissance man. Leon Botstein is an educator, musician, social historian, and observer who brings to his life's work an inquiring mind and some truly uncommon sense. I recently spent some time with him at his center of operations in upstate New York. Bard College in Annandale-on-Hudson, New York, is a small liberal arts college with a strong commitment to the performing arts. Its president, Leon Botstein, brings the same passion to teaching Aristotle.
Forget unjust, any government,
as he does to conducting a Hindemith symphony. You see, Botstein happens to be music director of the American Symphony Orchestra, the orchestra Leopold Stokowski founded in 1962. Education and classical music are two disciplines which some say are in serious trouble.
I'm more sanguine about both education and classical music than most people are. I mean, I think that it isn't in as bad shape as people say.
I sat down with Leon Botstein in the president's house on the Bard campus. We began our conversation with whether or not American culture is declining.
I'm not a believer in declining culture. I think declining culture is a function of people who long after lost youth. I've never discovered a time where any of us have a legitimate reason to be nostalgic about. I'm happy to be alive now, and I have no choice but to think the best time of all times is now. It doesn't mean that the times are great and they can't be better, but using the past against the present as a kind of weapon, to me, is not very helpful.
What do you picture when you read this stanza?
Botstein is a firm believer in public education. He believes that American high schools haven't done a bad job of educating an ever-increasing number of students. But he knows that our schools can and should do better.
We hear people say that the reason that high schools have not been able to do as well as everybody would like is that there's a babysitting function now because of the collapse of the family, that people just don't get the support at home that they used to get.
Let's assume that what you say is true. What are we going to do about it? We have to therefore make the school more interesting, more attractive, more useful, so that people really develop the love of learning and some curiosity, and they realize it's essential for their getting ahead in the world. The truth is we waste young people's time enormously, and the last 2 years of high school are the worst of all wasted times.
Botstein attributes that to the fact that today children develop physically at a younger age. The onset of puberty is substantially earlier than it was when the high school system was invented 100 years ago.
When our school system hits puberty, the victory is on puberty's side. It is on popular culture, peer culture. Learning goes out the window as an important, motivating experience.
You have some ideas on education that are quite revolutionary. I know in your book, Jefferson's Children, you propose, for example, just getting rid of the high school as we know it.
You know, I think what it requires is doing the elementary system, probably starting school earlier, and then graduating with a high school diploma at the end of the 10th grade. Then there are many options. The kids can go to national service, they can go on to college if they want, or we can create new kinds of institutions that meet adolescent needs. They could really learn to do something at a very important age that they really care about.
Is this doable? I mean,
sure it's doable. See, what's wrong with politicians in education is that they'll never be elected. They'll never stand for election when the results of what they do come about. Mostly what they like to do is increase test scores, class size, things that can be measured tomorrow, whether they do good or they don't do good.
Since I've been elected, test scores went up.
That's right. But the reason it's doable is because it fits what I think is the political need. People want not to spend simply more money. Conservatives have made their point. You know, you don't throw money at the problem. They're probably right. You don't starve the system either. So if you actually reform the system not by tinkering with it, but you rethought it, you actually would have a better chance. It's like retooling a factory. What do you think an appropriate...
Leon Botstein studied history at the University of Chicago and Harvard. When he was 23, he became the president of Franconia College, the youngest college president in American history.
Oh, that's your...
He's been president of Bard College since 1975.
There's no school for college presidents, is there?
There shouldn't be. Institutions of higher education don't need managerial skill. They need leadership that comes out of a love of learning and a love of the subject matter and a love of the act of scholarship, teaching.
And when you are the president of Bard College, where the emphasis is on performing arts, it helps to have a love of music. Leon Botstein, an accomplished violinist, has been the music director of the American Symphony Orchestra for more than 6 years. The orchestra, based in New York City, is dedicated to innovative programming that links classical music to everything from the visual arts to politics to pop culture.
In the case of symphonic music, your specialty, is the audience going to be there for symphonic music?
Oh, yeah. And it always was a small audience. I mean, we somehow think that 100 years ago, everybody was listening to Beethoven. Well, it isn't the case at all. Well, maybe it's an art form for older people.
There are more older people now anyway.
Absolutely. And classical music has a kind of rich, emotional possibility. And so a grown-up suddenly turns at age 25, 26, 27 to his or her first concert. What's wrong with that? And they become concert goers, and they really like to do it in their 50s and 60s. What's the tragedy? So all this decline stuff is great reading, but don't take it too seriously.
What he does think is a problem is the concert-goer's tendency to compare all music to a few masterpieces, like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
What we have a tendency to do in music is we overdo what I call a masterpiece syndrome. We want to compare everything to these few masterpieces, which we don't do in painting and we don't do in literature. When you go, for example, to a gallery, or you read a new book, someone writes a new novel, read the novel and you say, well, it was good, I like that. You don't say, well, it's not Middlemarch. You don't say, well, that's not War and Peace.
Well, then our tempo.
One of the great advantages of music education is that you begin to realize that there's no perfect interpretation. Pianissimo, 9.
Where is music supposed to hit you anyway? In the head, in the heart? Or?
All over. Music is about heart and head. There's something about your internal imagination that gets triggered by music. It's the ultimate form of a kind of private daydreaming, which is wonderful for people.
People complain sometimes today with the pace of the pressures that people feel, that they don't have time to think.
This is, I think, a piece of commonplace nonsense. Thinking is not something that you can separate. If you really think, you think all the time. I can't say, well, I'm thinking now, and now I'm going to be thoughtless. The fact is that the best ideas happen when you least expect them. But let's go back to your question of youth.
What do you want for a person who attends this college?
My ambition is to create an environment where there's a genuine enthusiasm and love for learning. There's one thing I want to cultivate. Is a sense that one's life can be transformed by learning and by thinking.
We have the latest on the war in Yugoslavia next on Sunday Morning.
You're wearing used clothes right now. You got a closet full of used clothes.
You wear it once, it's used. Buy at Value Village, you get a little extra money in your pocket, which I figure you can use.
And save even more money at Value Village's big 45th anniversary celebration this Saturday, April 17th. Save 50% throughout the store. Plus, enter for a chance to win a Volkswagen New Beetle, courtesy of DealerNet.com. Catch the savings bug this Saturday at Value Village.
A store full of great things that have been previously owned at no extra charge.
If you're in the market for a new RV, check out Gresham RV Center, your Winnebago headquarters. Gresham RV will save you money. We're Oregon's #1 Winnebago dealer. Shop in Gresham. The selection has never been better. Gresham RV offers you an award-winning service department, factory-trained techs, and a large parts and accessory store. Open 7 days a week. Get the lowest price and the best service on your new Winnebago. We're easy to find, just 3.5 miles off I-84 East, exit 16. Gresham RV Center, serving Portland and Vancouver for 20 years.
I never thought when my son moved away that I wouldn't see him for 3 years. It's just a tractor for my grandson. But this trip I wasn't going to miss.
He's sleeping.
My son had built his own life. He got a John Deere. Of course. But he still appreciates where he came from.
The LT-133 from John Deere. The only lawn tractor with a past as bright as its future.
To locate a John Deere dealer near you, call toll-free 1-888-669-7767.
Rock has so much more than you bargained for. Do you love it? I love it. I got it at Ross.
It's the Ross $14.99 swimwear collection. Save up to 75% on the summer's hottest styles.
Do you love it? I love it. I got it at Ross.
The Ross $14.99 swimwear collection. Don't you just love it?
Dennis's 7Ds Landscaping, for over 40 years, creating and maintaining Portland's award-winning premier landscapes. Looking for a tractor to do the big jobs? Dennis's 7Ds Landscaping suggests the new Kubota diesel tractors. Kubota, backed by a long history of exceptional quality, dependability, and power. Dennis's 7Ds Landscape professionals prefer Kubota's simplicity and comfortable operation. Experience the difference of Kubota tractors at Moen Machinery in Gresham. For landscape designs, installation, or maintenance, call Dennis's 7Ds Landscaping.
For the latest from the Pentagon view of what's going on in Yugoslavia, we go now to David Martin. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Charles.
What about this war? I mean, we have the tragedy of the refugees, but there's also a bombing campaign going on. How is that going? Who's winning?
Well, on one level, certainly NATO is winning the air war against the Serb military. There are now, for the first time, reports of desertions among Serb army units in the field in Kosovo, and that's a pretty good sign. The strikes are starting to take a toll. But right now, you'd have to say this is the classic case of the operation being a success, but the patient is still dying. And in the case of Kosovo, it's dying a horrible death. The military mission here is to degrade the Serb military capability. So NATO tomorrow could halt the bombing and declare that it has achieved its mission of degrading the Serb military. That would be a true statement, but it would also be ludicrous because it has not achieved the overall objective of forcing Milosevic to sign up to a peace agreement with the Kosovar Albanians, and that still is nowhere in sight.
In the Vietnam War, they used to say, why don't we just say we won and get out? How long does this operation last? When will we know it's over?
Well, there is, to me, anyway, a very simple measure of success here, and that's when Milosevic withdraws his army, either willingly or under airstrikes, from Kosovo, and then you create the conditions under which a NATO peacekeeping force, as opposed to an invasion force, could go in, essentially occupy Kosovo, and then allow the refugees to return. So militarily, I think you can see what you have to do. The trouble is, it's hard to do. These Serb tanks are hiding in villages, and the only advantage now is that as a result of their scorched earth policy, at least conducting airstrikes against those tanks, you don't have to worry so much about hitting civilians because so many of the civilians have been driven from their homes.
Is it possible that ground forces might go in there before the refugees are returning? In other words, we understand that there's some hope that maybe they'll be able to escort the refugees back into Kosovo at some point.
Oh, I think that's going to happen for sure, because I don't think many Albanians are going to go back into Kosovo without some sort of military protection ahead of them, given what's been going on there for the last couple of weeks. The issue here, Charles, is whether ground troops will go in a permissive environment. In other words, Milosevic says, okay, you win, come on in, or whether it will have to go in against resistance from the Serb military. And that would be, obviously, an invasion. That is what NATO and U.S. officials still insist they are not planning on.
NATO is, of course, a coalition. How is it holding together?
Actually, it's gotten a lot better because I think NATO sees the very real prospect here of being humiliated by one dictator in the Balkans. There were lots of disagreements early on about what targets should be hit, and it took a lot of U.S. lobbying to start going downtown Belgrade. But the fact that Milosevic is hanging on, the sights of Kosovo, as seen through the eyes and the tails of those refugees coming out, have done more to unify the alliance than any lobbying that the U.S. could do.
David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you. And Bob Schieffer in Washington, what's on the agenda for Face the Nation later on?
Good morning, Charles. Well, we're going to talk to Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot. He's just back from the trouble spot out there. We'll also check in with General Wesley Clark, the Supreme NATO Commander, and we'll talk to two senators, Chuck Hagel and Bob Kerry.
Thank you, Bob Schieffer. We'll be watching. And coming up here, a chat with the descendant of Henry Ford on the present and future of the U.S. auto industry.
You know, one of the things
coming up on Sunday morning
is sort of a continuing blur between what is considered a crime.
She was a child.
The soldiers are coming.
I will not lose my daughter.
Chosen by God to save a nation.
I'm afraid to leave.
She was a hero betrayed.
Killed everything I believed in.
But her undying faith made her a saint.
Why are you punishing me for talking to God?
Joan of Arc, a world premiere, CBS Sunday, May 16th.
The address is CBS. Welcome home. Maybe it's because we've been in business for over 160 years. Or because people like the color green. Or maybe it's just that no matter how old they get, they never seem to stop working. Whatever the reason, every day people count on John Deere equipment. Like the all-new LX lawn tractor, built to last and last. So if you own one John Deere, thank you. If you own 127, thanks again.
Available at participating John Deere dealers. To locate a John Deere dealer near you, call 1-888-MOPROS.
Drive a 99 Honda Accord LX for just $159 a month?
Sure. It's the least we can do.
Bob Lanfear's Beaverton Honda Superstore has over 150 99 Honda Accords to choose from.
Every make, every model.
All the luxury, quality, and long-lasting reliability of a 99 Honda Accord LX for just $159 a month.
You heard right. It's the least we can do.
Bob Lanfear's Beaverton Honda Superstore on Canyon Road. Just by Bob.
Come to Classic Antique. Browse through over an acre of unique and unusual in-home furnishings. Choose from 20 genuine antique bedroom suites crafted at the turn of the century using beautiful marbles, inlaid wood, and hand carving. Enjoy the vast array of wall art, beveled mirrors, lamps, and elegant decorative accent pieces. Discover hundreds of vintage-inspired home office furnishings. Choose from mission styles, cherry, nostalgic oak, or country rustic. Classic Antiques, the authority for vintage and antique reproduction furnishings.
Parent-Teacher Hotline, sponsored by Burgerville and KOIN-6 News.
Sunday Morning continues on CBS.
Nancy will have to see from near to far almost 1,000 times today. Her eyes will focus on 40 labels, 60 charts, and 100 smiles. And in all that time, she'll never once think about the science that allows her to focus instantly at all distances. Nancy just knows that her Verilux lenses help her see better. And for her, that's a very comforting thought. Verilux, the comfort of better vision. For more information, call toll-free 1-800-VERILUX.
How far will you go so that people can fly? How deep into darkness to bring a city to life? What depths will you dare to keep the world running smoothly? far will the people of Texaco go to provide the energy the world needs? Going down. How deep is the ocean? Texaco, a world of energy.
She was coming home to the jungle, to their untamed love for butter. Cut down by cholesterol until...
I can't believe it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter. The taste you love without the cholesterol.
How civilized. How do moms prevent trash disasters? Some kind of sixth sense? Like what tells them Glad kitchen bags are the way to go? The dependable plastic? Glad's quick tie flaps? Or is it just instinct? Moms who know Glad.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
A bit earlier in this broadcast, you heard educator Leon Botstein talking about the need to make higher education more attractive so that students may develop a love of learning. Well, in this postcard from Nebraska, Roger Welsh tells of one woman who's taken that thought even further, with youngsters who learn literally at her knee.
So you were within easy walking distance of school. I guess everything's within easy walking distance.
It is.
In a town of 320, you don't have to go very far for anything.
You don't have to.
For more than 30 years, Darlene Brumbaugh was a dedicated teacher here in the tiny Nebraska town of Glenville. The school has been closed for years, but her name and some memories were still etched here on the old blackboard of the empty school when we visited recently.
They're still writing on the blackboard.
That's my writing the last day of school.
Wow. Your last day of school, and probably the last day the school was open.
I didn't realize it was still there.
May 25th,
I'm not going to call her Darlene because she's still the teacher she's always been, and I can't bring myself to call a teacher Darlene.
How many kids do you suppose passed through your hands in this room?
I don't know. I'd have to look in my autograph book. I have everybody's autograph from the first day I started teaching in here.
You still see some of those students?
Mm-hmm. Go to their graduations, go to their weddings. A lot of them just come by to say hi. Some you never expected, but they do.
Wow, that's true.
When the school in Glenville closed and Mrs. Brumbaugh retired, she decided to take on a new teaching task in a direction she has always loved, books. She's become a librarian.
These are an assortment of informational books, sewing, quilting, gardening. These are all children's books in series. I have a lot of National Geographic books on different parts of the world.
My hometown of Dannebrog used to have a library here in the city hall, but then the village decided to move its offices to another site and omit the library. It wasn't much of a library, and I suppose it's easier these days to get information off the web, but it was a library. That ignores the most important factor in such matters. There are some people who simply love books. Mrs. Brumbaugh is one of them.
I am bigger than all of you and stronger, too, boasted the mummy. Let me try. Said the witch. Said the ghost. I always wanted the kids to read because I felt that if they read, they could always open a book and find out about any place in the world. And I just kept collecting books so my kids would have them in the classroom period. Okay, let's go over here and see if we can find 4. Can we find 4 here? Here's 1. 1, 2, 3. Oh, those were easy to find, weren't they? 1, 2.
Thing is, she doesn't work in a public library. This is the Brumbaugh Library. There's no tax money spent here and few donations. The books are Mrs. Brumbaugh's. The building is her former garage.
You gonna come back now and bring your books back with Sister? Say see you later.
And her patrons are her former students and neighbors and friends. There are no fees, no time limits on books checked out.
Oh, that looks like that's going to have another ghost or something in it, doesn't it? I've had one person forget to bring their books back and couldn't find them, and so they paid me for the books. But other than that, why, they can keep them as long as they need to in order to get them read. There's no 2-week limit on them. Well, thank you for coming today.
Her business has flourished. Between her increased book holdings and the growth of her patronage, there's barely room for her adoring audience to take advantage of her story hours.
Monster shopping, zombie stomping. Take a look, this town is hopping. And look who's hiding, without a doubt. There's one ghost inside, two ghosts out.
You didn't really retire at all.
No, not really. I did. It's not, I don't have to be there at 8 to 5. That's the only thing.
And now it's fun instead of work.
Right. It is. Much more fun.
Everybody was in the woods looking for things. Strange noises started coming from the bushes.
But her visitors are not just children.
Huge.
Adults, too. People she once knew as young pupils at the Glenville School also use the Brumbaugh Library.
More adults come all the time, and they don't realize I have this many books, or the assortment of books that I have. And so they really, once they're here, then they kind of get hooked. I got a box of books from Minnesota the other day. I have no idea who this lady is, no written message in it or nothing, just a return address on the outside of the box with some books in it for me.
I'm not sure there's any particular moral to all of this. You know, that small towns should support their libraries or that there's still a need for libraries. I just admire Mrs. Brumbaugh's affection for her books and her willingness to share them with her neighbors. And as Dannebrog closes its library, I envy Glenville its Mrs. Brumbaugh.
Bye-bye. Bye, George. Bye. Bye, Chase. Bye, Derek. Bye. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mrs. Brumbaugh.
The view from Detroit from a late model Ford, next on Sunday Morning.
I told my architect we wanted a place that reflects the direction our business is heading. Could she design a space where ideas can't help but collide, where the techie and the dreamer both feel at home, and work is what you escape to, not from. Bottom line, we consider this place our secret weapon.
When you want an architect to build on your vision, call a member of the American Institute of Architects, AIA Architects, building on your vision.
What will happen in Cuba after Castro? What will replace television? Is an arthritis cure around the corner? One thing's for sure, opportunities abound. And every day we send a search party of 35,000 to find them. Care to join us? Let's get to work. Solomon Smith Barney.
Where are my socks? If I don't get those socks, I'm out of business.
Did you check all your stocks?
There's no socks in my stocks.
Check down by the dock.
I'm at box. There's no socks.
I've checked every box. There's no box full of socks. Forget about socks. I just saw folks. We got lock. We got frocks.
Not frocks, not walks, not locks, just socks.
You got your clocks?
Supply chain problems? IBM has internet solutions.
Sure. Play my stocks.
If only snacking weren't just about satisfying your hunger, but your hunger for life. In this spirit, Snackwell's brings you hearty fruit and grain cereal bars with orchard fresh flavors like country fruit medley. Live well, snack well.
When you've got Schlotzsky's on the train, there's not much room for anything else.
Now, about Junior's turn. It wasn't very long ago that the United States auto industry, long the undisputed world leader, was suffering from an inferiority complex, mainly because lots of people felt that Detroit's products were inferior. Inferior to the Japanese, whose cars were more fuel efficient. Inferior to the Germans, whose luxury autos were better built and lasted longer. Yes, Detroit lost quite a bit of market share, but the big automakers have come roaring back, especially Ford, the name that began the U.S. auto industry. Now there's a new Ford behind the wheel, and Ray Brady has been to see him.
I was born in '57, and so for me the first really cool car was the '64 Mustang.
At the youthful age of 41, his conversation still sprinkled with terms like cool and neat. William Clay Ford Jr. is out to change the world, the auto world. He sits at the pinnacle of power, the newly minted chairman of the Ford Motor Company, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, who founded the company 96 years ago.
So for me, it's really not a job. It's really a calling, if you will.
Indeed, it's an incredible calling. Henry Ford's great-grandson, Bill, is the fourth Ford to sit at the top of the company. Following Henry was Bill Ford's grandfather, Edsel, followed by Bill's uncle, Henry Ford II, also known as Henry the Deuce.
Well, I guess I've got gasoline instead of blood in my veins is probably what it means.
Bill Ford is primed for his new job. He's worked for the company 15 years. Now, teamed up with Jack Nasser, company president and CEO, the two may be on the verge of turning the $156 billion Ford Motor Company into the largest corporation in the world. And incredibly, control of this giant company is in the hands of the Ford family, which owns some 45% of the voting stock.
You know, I looked up just how great in terms of sheer financial size Ford is, and you were 3.5 times the size of Microsoft, Apple, Intel, and Netscape combined. That's a giant, giant company.
Well, we are a huge company. We have great global reach.
With that global reach, Ford sales of light trucks and sport utility vehicles broke all records, up more than 19% just last month. A breakneck pace the company hopes to continue.
You've got $6 million a year in dividends. Wouldn't it be much easier to just take it easy and...
Well, sure, and feel horrible about yourself. I mean, I feel like I have an opportunity that very few people ever have, and that's to truly make a difference in this world. And for me to turn my back on that opportunity, to me, would be absolutely wrong.
What opportunity? What do you hope to do with the company?
Well, I hope to continue our tradition of being a great company, and what I mean by great is this. I think a good company makes excellent cars and trucks. A great company does that and then tries to make a difference in the world.
He can point to the tradition started by his great-grandfather. Henry Ford's assembly line changed American industry. And while Ford had labor problems, he paid workers an unheard of $5 a day. And for that, he's in today's history books.
Yes, I recall. He said if you don't pay the people enough money, they can't buy the car.
Exactly. I mean, in many cases, it was sort of inventing the middle class.
A middle class that was then able to afford the Model T. 10,000 of them produced in 1909 alone.
Well, you know, this is really what put America on wheels. This is the Model T.
Hey, that's great.
But Bill Ford's own wheels tell a lot about his plans for the future.
It's not exactly a subtle vehicle.
His car of choice is an experimental, electric-powered Ford truck.
Some people say you could have that car by the year 2004. That's only 5 years away. Is that ridiculous? Or?
No, it's not ridiculous. We can clearly have that technology on the road. Whether we can have it in big numbers is something that I think is open to debate. But clearly, in my lifetime, we're going to see vehicles that are driven by a propulsion system that's quite different than we've seen, up to this point.
You're well known as an environmentalist, but you're also at the top of an automobile company. Isn't that a contradiction in terms?
It shouldn't be. If Ford is going to capture the hearts and minds of the next generation, we better get our arms around the environmental issue. And that means owning up to all the things that we've done wrong and that we're continuing to do wrong and getting them right.
Over the years, there have been many innovations in cars. In the auto industry, you can never stand still.
What kind of new models can we look for from the company?
Well, you know, one of the things you can look for is sort of a continuing blur between what is considered a car and a truck.
But on Wall Street, they're saying Ford and the other car makers may be too dependent on pickups, vans, and sport utility vehicles.
One of the problems for all the U.S. car makers has been making money on small cars. Are you anywhere near to solving that problem?
Well, we're closer, but it's still an Achilles heel for us. We still rely too much on profitability on our large cars and on our trucks, and that's what the consumer has been demanding.
And paying rich prices. On some of those models, Ford racks up profits of $10,000 to $15,000 per vehicle. And Ford is betting that the new Focus, here being ready for sale, will be a real winner. Reportedly, it will earn $1,200 more per car than the Escort, the vehicle it replaces. Not only that, Ford may soon recapture the crown it lost to General Motors 70 years ago.
I used to interview your uncle, Henry Ford II, quite a bit, and I thought he was a wonderful man, but the company was number 2. Now, on your watch, it looks like Ford is going to be number 1. You're going to pass General Motors.
It's not something we spend much time talking about. Because I'm not sure size is necessarily a harbinger of success.
But keeping the workforce on your side is.
No, not at all.
Bill Ford seems to know how to connect with auto workers. And that's no surprise. When an explosion ripped through the company's giant River Rouge plant, the young chairman, 1 month on the job.
I got here the second I found out.
One worker was killed. Scores were seriously burned.
Clearly, this is an awful day. It's a tragedy. I think of all the people that work at Ford like members of the Ford family, and as such, this was one of the worst days of my life. The families were obviously very distraught. But out of all that, it was amazing the way that the whole community rallied, and the number of letters. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of letters I got from people in the community saying, how can I help? What can I do? You all made cards for everybody that was burned. Do you remember doing that? Yeah! That was really nice of you.
That single event not only won him respect from his workers, but from the Detroit community as well. A community that his family has long supported in everything from special schools to its football team, the Detroit Lions, owned by Bill Ford's father. But make no mistake, behind the facade of fun and philanthropy, this family is all business. Take Henry Ford II.
Your uncle told me once that a Japanese car pulled ahead of him. And I think he said he was in a Torino, and he said, I just pulled ahead of that guy, and I showed him.
Well, that competitive nature still burns in us. We don't like to see anybody pull in front of us, no matter what they're making.
And with Bill Ford already hard at work, it can be assumed that he's a chip off the old block, the Ford block. On the joys of junketeering, next on Sunday Morning.
Just put one cheek like this, and over the other cheek like this, and then you smile. If you're smiling, then you'll make people very, very happy. I'm going to teach you how to smile in different shapes. I can smile like this. I can smile like this. My mom taught me how to smile.
Hampton Inn and Suites. One of the few nice places still around.
What will it take to build this company?
To get ready for prime time on the web.
How can we do everything a little faster? Okay, a lot faster. When they're looking for answers, more CIOs, more webmasters, more people, look to Compaq than to any other computer company in the world.
Limits? What limits?
Compaq. Better answers.
My granddaughter follows my every move. But the other day when I set out to give her a lesson, it turned out I was the one with something to learn about my dentures. So I decided to try Fix-It and Fresh. It forms a thin yet strong seal for a more secure fit and a fresh feeling. You know, you're never too old to learn something new. Fix It and Fresh and forget it.
My Aunt Marie never had a cookbook in her life. What a cook. But tonight, she did ask the Olive Garden how to make stuffed chicken parmesan. I'm shocked. It's parmesan like you've never seen. Luscious Italian cheeses stuffed inside the chicken breast with the great pasta and all the salad and breadsticks you want. All for $9.95. In fact, my Uncle Joe liked the price so much, he opened something he never opens either. The Olive Garden. When you hear, your family.
Eric Roberts is an embittered veteran, and only angels can heal his scars.
God is offering you hope.
Tell God to go away. Touched by an angel. Then, for generations, Cass Medeiros and her family have lived off the sea.
Lobsterville, it's a tradition.
But when their livelihood is threatened...
He wants us to sell out.
And her world is falling apart...
Mayday, Postcard!
The only thing more important than tradition is family.
Bring your father home.
Sharon Lawrence and Richard Kiley in his final performance, Blue Moon, CBS tonight.
The movie theaters, fast food parlors, and playgrounds were jammed last week. Most elementary and high school students had Easter week off. But the schools weren't the only empty places. Capitol Hill was pretty much a ghost town, too. Yes, Congress was off for 2 weeks. But for them, off has a slightly different meaning. House Speaker Dennis Hastert was off to Germany, Lithuania, Britain, and Ireland. And he took a dozen colleagues with him. House Democratic leader Dick Gephardt was off to Italy, Czechoslovakia, and India, along with 9 other representatives and their spouses. Not to be outdone, Senate Democratic leader Tom Daschle took 3 colleagues on a swing through Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. They were discussing trade issues, which is what these trips are usually said to be about. Golf, shopping, and dining are never mentioned. And finally, Microsoft, the software behemoth currently embroiled in a federal antitrust suit, invited 10 key House and Senate committee staffers on an all-expense-paid excursion to the so-called Microsoft campus outside Seattle. Why? To, quote, introduce staffers to the faces and ideas behind the products and issues of importance to Microsoft and their states. What about activities for spouses? They are not invited, from one Microsoft official. This is a business trip. To the flowering fields of Iowa, next on Sunday Morning.
The Osgood File is sponsored by First Union, your guide to the financial world.
In the financial world, nothing is permanent but change. The landscape is constantly shifting. Every day, companies are downsizing, seeking the right merger, looking for acquisitions that make sense. Even deceptively simple corrections like debt restructuring can take months and demand a variety of financial products. Today, companies searching for solutions in a changing world are finding them in the price of stability and experience. Come to the financial mountain called First Union. Or if you prefer, the mountain will come to you.
I'm Roger Soddy from Post Cereal. I grew up on cereal. Followed the funnies, sent for that sheriff's badge. It was the way to start the day. Now that I've grown up, my cereal is Post-Ready Wheat. Simple, honest, pure, and so wholesome, the feeling you're off on the right foot stays with you all day long. Post-Ready Wheat. It's starting the day with cereal and doing it right.
Over the years, people have learned to trust just one man when it comes to sending flowers. Not me. Him. The FTD Mercury Man.
And not every florist gets to put him on the door. In fact, only the very best do. So when someone you know deserves the best, ask for FTD by name. From the man who's done it best for nearly 90 years, the FTD Mercury Man. Order online at ftd.com.
This portion of Sunday Morning is sponsored by FTD. Some of life's best moments come FTD.
When our Sunday morning trumpet sounds again next week, we will pay tribute to one of America's great songwriters, Frank Lesser. We leave you now among the pasque flowers on Bear Creek near Ames, Iowa. The pasque is also known as the April Fool, the badger, the Easter plant, the gosling, the rock lily, wild crocus, and the windflower, a pasque by any other name. damask flowers along Bear Creek near Ames, Iowa. I'm Charles Osgood. Please join us again next Sunday morning. Until then, I'll see you on the radio.
Will you dance with me and you? Hold me tight. Dance with me and you. Kiss me too. Just hit, pretty baby. That was hit, pretty baby. That's a hit, pretty down. You mess around and fell in love. Will you dance with me and you? Help me tight. Have me and you. Kiss me too. That was hit, pretty baby. That was hit, pretty baby. That was hit, pretty down. Mess around and fell in love. Was a rockin' good way. That's a rockin' good way. That was a rockin' good way. That's 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 around and fell in love. All right. Thank you, fellas.
Experience you can trust. CBS News.
The latest on the crisis over Kosovo, plus the do's and don'ts of being a parent spectator when your kid is in a sport, playing to win. It's all about behavior.
This week on This Morning.
If you think it's an open and shut case that these two planted the bomb on Pan Am 103, think again. Better yet, watch 60 Minutes tonight.